All right, everyone, welcome back to the Phins Forecast. As you can see, it's only about half of the crew today. Lost Keith to some sickness, and we lost Steve to having a baby. Congratulations, Steve and
Hey,
Michaela.
heck yeah.
I don't know when they're having the baby, but it'll be within like the next 48-hour period. So congratulations to you guys ahead of time. So it's just Josh and myself tonight. We are ready to dive into this despicable loss to the Packers.
Oof.
Which will, of course, will lead to our game balls and jockstraps. It's funny, Josh. The last 3 weeks we had all game balls and no jockstraps. This week, I feel like that's going
It
to be
was
very
polar
different.
opposite. Yeah, it was so hard for me to pick somebody. Yep.
Game ball, nobody.
Yeah,
the
nobody.
fans for having to sit through this.
I picked the Phins Forecast podcast as my game ball.
That's the game ball. We're also going to debate the future of Mike McDaniel and Chris Grier. We're going to take a look at, I know they just signed new contracts, but our owner has a lot of money. Going to talk about this, and actually Mike McDaniel in a press conference today actually got asked about this. We're going to talk about the softness of our team. Is this a team built to win the Super Bowl or even a playoff win, right? We're going to take a look at the long-term outlook for some of our key players, not all of them. We're just going to take a look at one or two, maybe three, depending on how much time we have. And then, of course, we have to talk about the Jets coming up. I know they're 3-9. We're 5-7. This is never an easy game because it's the New York Jets, and Aaron Rodgers has our number for some reason.
Sure does.
So we're going to get into all of that and so much more, I have a feeling, on this show. So let's get this intro over with so we can get started. We have a lot to talk about.
Let's do it. Fins up.
Oh, baby, if that doesn't get you hyped up, I don't know what does. What a song. What a find there by Keith. Love every second of it. So here we go. Here we go, Josh, a.k.a.
Yes, sir.
Aqua Ace. We get to have a 1v1 on the future of our Dolphins.
Oof. Yeah, I think the other guys picked a good day to maybe just take a pause.
Yeah. Maybe it was planned. They were like, I don't know if I want to sit in on this one tonight, So there's a lot to talk about. We, of course, need to get into the Packers game first.
Yeah.
It was on Thanksgiving night. We lauded it as one of the best games of the day. Many people in the media lauded it as the best game of the day. I hate to say it, it was not the best game of the day. That definitely goes to Lions-Bears. That was a fantastic game.
That was amazing. That game was phenomenal.
It just so happened it was at 12 o'clock in the afternoon for those of us on the East, which means on the West Coast it was 9 o'clock in the morning.
I know.
What a morning game to wake up to. Absolutely fantastic. But we got another NFC, what is that, North? Is that the division?
Yeah, I think
Whatever
so.
their division is, we got a third team from that division. We got the Green Bay Packers. We got frigid temperatures. We got a coach and a quarterback and a receiver spitting out interviews about breaking narratives and how narratives are easy to predict because they're always the same, and that we're here, the only way to break the narrative is to play well. I don't think they got that memo.
Sure didn't. Nope. It was funny. I was quietly hyped, right? Because again, players were saying all of the right things, right? You had Tua coming out in a couple interviews saying, these are the kind of games that kill narratives. You had coach coming out, you had wide receivers whose name shall not be named because he disappeared in this game. And
as usual.
Yeah, exactly. And I really felt like, okay, this is the make or break game of the year, right? For us. I think, we're riding a little streak here. We're getting some momentum. Coaches are finally calling some good games. Players are starting to play up to the potential and to what we know they can play. And I was hyped, man. I was hyped. And boy, what a letdown. Oh, man.
The only thing I'm thankful for is that it was at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
didn't ruin all of Thanksgiving.
It didn't, right. If it was the 12:30 game, right, the rest of Thanksgiving is just
shot.
Destroyed.
Yep.
It's at 8:30 at night. I believe the majority of us tuned out for the second half.
I mean, yeah, pretty much.
Majority of Dolphins fans probably did too. I mean, I had the game on, but I certainly wasn't watching it with bated breath like I was the first half, right? It's the first play of the game. Or not our first,
our first
first offensive play. I guess it was an offensive play.
Well, special teams play, but yeah.
But before we even get into the details of the game, like the thing that bothers me the most about this is that it's all true. They're not narratives. They're truths.
No,
they're
not anymore.
Yep. Right. Can you play in cold weather? No, it's not a narrative. It's a fact. You cannot play in cold weather. Yep. It doesn't matter that you think you can play in cold weather because the statistics say that you cannot.
No.
Right?
And the other narrative is, can you there were three narratives in this game, right? Can you play on prime time?
Which we just did a couple weeks ago. We thought we finally broke it.
Yep. Nope. Right back to normal. Can you play in cold weather? And can you beat a team with a playoff quality team?
And
that's
the one that bothers me the most. I don't care that we can't play in cold weather. There's not that many cold weather stadiums.
No.
I don't care that we can't play in primetime. We're the Miami Dolphins. We generally don't get that many primetime games. What I do care about is that if you're going to win the Super Bowl, you have to beat good teams. We can't do that, right? No. We're only 4-3 with Tua at the helm this year. I know everybody likes to point the blame that we didn't have Tua for 4 games. Mm-hmm. And fantastic. Okay, so what if we did, right? Does that guarantee that we win those games against those teams? No, right? Seattle looks good. We didn't think Seattle was good at the time, but Seattle looks pretty good, leading their division.
Yeah.
New England Patriots, I harp on it every single time we have this show, but they won that game, right?
They did. They genuinely did.
Outside of a really, really poor call, not a poor call, but a poor rule by the NFL, they won that game. Right? So
even the Jags, man, the Jags should have won that game twice.
The Jags should have won that game, right? Mm-hmm. Anybody who wants to say that we were in the Buffalo game before Tua went out is misremembering. We were not in that game.
No, this was a season of poor coaching, poor playing, game management, adjustment, lack of adjustment. I mean, this season has been, and injuries. I mean, look, injuries do play a part in this, and I think we'll get to that in this game.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, our secondary is decimated. We were missing 2 starters already going into the game, right? Then we lose 2 rookies. One now is on IR and Cam Smith probably for the rest of the season. And, we lose 2 others. I mean, it was just nasty, but the season has snowballed on us, and it's hard to watch, man. It really is. And of course, it's the first year we decided to do an awesome podcast. Couldn't have done this last year when we were like,
even last year though, the narrative was we didn't beat anybody, and it was true. We didn't beat anybody.
Yeah, but we had at least won games.
Yeah, we did win games. We had the most high flying offense that the NFL has ever seen.
Could you imagine this podcast after that Denver
70-point game? Yeah.
Holy shit. Yeah.
But so where was I going with this? Oh, I really thought that the coaching turned it around though. I really did. With 3-game winning streak, I know it wasn't the strongest of competitors outside. The Rams they're playing for the division lead, right? That division's really tight. Well, 3 of the teams are really tight at least. So you got the Rams. That was a good win on primetime. I thought, okay, the coaching looked way better, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we had been critical of Mike McDaniel and the screen game nonsense the first 7 games a year or whatever it was. Finally getting away from that.
Mm-hmm. Balanced offense, rushing attack, passing attack.
We had balance. Yeah, we talked about that many times. We were balanced. It was great. Everything was looking up. And it's just false sense of looking up, though. It's this false sense that we're getting better. When I know that every game in the NFL is hard, but this is a team that many in the preseason anticipated would be easily in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
And potentially pushing the Bills for the division.
Man. Everyone was saying it. I was saying
Super Bowl. Yeah. So Now it's like, okay, where are we, right? Like, we're 5-7. Even if we win out, that's 10 wins. That could still be really hard to get a wild card game because the AFC is just disproportionately difficult.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. Yeah.
Like, I feel like 10-7 in the NFC, we're in. I feel good about that.
Well, 9-8, I think.
9-8, really,
Yeah.
But 10-7 in the AFC, when you're looking at teams like the Chargers, right, who are looking better and better, which we knew they were going to.
Yep.
They have one of the best coaches of all time. I'm not afraid to say that. This guy wins wherever he goes, right? You got the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix looks like a star already,
bro. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm as all of our listeners know, and you guys, the co-hosts know, I'm a huge draft guy. I love breaking down players coming out. I was so high on Bo Nix, and I soured on him post draft. I was like, well, I don't like the fit in Denver, and holy crap, that man can play. Holy crap!
And you know what? And this is the first time in a while we've seen a college quarterback, and I'm not going to harp too much on this. It's not really Dolphins related, but first time in a while we've seen a college quarterback with that number of starts.
Yeah, true.
You know, and I mean, we've never seen a quarterback with that number of starts. He leads the NCAA in number of starts, but like we haven't seen a quarterback with like, let's say 40 starts.
Right. At least not from a Power 5 school.
Right.
There are tons that come out of like
we get the Dukes and all that stuff. Yeah, you know, Daniel Jones, all that crap. But like give me a guy from a big school, right?
Yeah.
So now here we are. Best we can do is 10-7.
Which I do think 10-7 we make the wild card if we went out. I really genuinely do. That's not rose-colored glasses like I'm soured on this team, but I do think we make it. Genuinely. We have the easiest or the second easiest remaining schedule. Chargers and Broncos, I believe, are outside of the top 10 from an ease of schedule for the remaining season. So anything's possible, but
yeah. So let's just take a look at that for a sec because let's paint the picture, right? The top 4 teams are the division winners. We're not going to be that. No. The Buffalo has already clinched the division. Embarrassing as that is.
Oof.
They have already clinched the division. So that leaves the 5 seed, the 6 seed, and the 7 seed. There are now 3 wild card teams per division. The Chargers sit at 8-4. The Ravens sit at 8-5. The Broncos sit at 8-5. We are 5-7. That means we are two and a half games behind. So 2.5 games behind. But we do, as you mentioned, have the easiest schedule left. We play the Jets twice. We play the Houston Texans, who look like a shell of the team that they were last year, but are currently also 8-5 and lead their division. So still a competitive game. We would actually beat a winning team if we beat them, which is huge, right? We got the San Francisco 49ers, who I know they're going to miss the playoffs at this point. That seems inevitable. They're 5-7 as well.
And they have like their high school water boy playing on offense for them because they have so many injuries.
Right. No Brandon Ayuk, no Christian McCaffrey. They lost CMC's backup, Jordan Mason. Brock Purdy looks awful, but he's also dealing with injuries. Right? That's a winnable game. And then we got the Cleveland Browns, who you just never really know what you're going to get. Right? That Monday night game was incredible.
Bananas.
Incredible.
I have this is to Andrew if you're watching. Jerry Judy, thank you for dropping him.
Jameis Winston, I'm sorry. I know they should have started him day one. He is erratic with the football. He puts it in a position that he shouldn't put it in more often than not. But at the end of the day, that dude's a gamer. And that's what scares me about them, dude.
Yep.
That's what scares me.
As a Florida State grad, I watched Jameis in college and watched him early on in the pros. And I'll tell you what, you either get a 500-yard, 4-touchdown game or you get a 500-yard, 4-interception game. You're always getting 500 yards out of them. You know what I mean? And scary, man. That's not
so I kind of want to go into like 3 key takeaways. Let's do it that way. 3 key takeaways from the Packers game. But before I do that, I want to run through the schedule. I want to give people an idea of like what's the difficulty level here.
Let's do it.
So next game, and we're going to play a little bit of spoiler here because we're going to talk about the Jets game more later. But versus New York and Miami, is that a win?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a win. Easy. Like guaranteed?
I mean,
Nothing's easy, but as far
nothing's
as
easy. I
games
mean,
go.
I think it's close to a touchdown. I think I have a winning by 6 in my prediction.
And we're okay, and we're under the reality here that we can't lose another game. We lose another game, we're out.
We're done.
That's
I
it.
mean, not mathematically done, but we're done.
Not mathematically, but
I mean, theoretically.
almost mathematically. If the other 3 teams keep winning, it will be mathematically, right?
Well, yeah.
I mean,
yeah, right. I mean, look, to those that are listening and to you, I think we're done now. But there is still a chance.
But we could still win 10 games. That's not something to like
sneeze at,
man. 10 games after losing our quarterback for 4 of those, right?
And going over in those games, by the way.
Right.
Yeah.
We beat the Patriots.
Right.
That's all we managed.
Right.
We went 1-4 without them.
We beat a New England high school team. Cool.
Yeah. We didn't actually beat them though.
Right.
Right.
The refs beat them for
the
us.
refs beat them. Yeah. The refs. All right. At Houston. That's tough. At Houston.
I mean, can we win? Yes. I think the way they're playing, they are not playing good football right now. CJ Stroud is it doesn't do it enough justice to say he's a shell of his former self last year, because he's not good. I think he leads the league in interceptions, I think.
But they do have Nico back, which is a big deal.
Yeah, and they have Mixon, right?
They have Mixon. Mixon's going to kill us.
Dude,
I think that's a 50-50 right there.
It is a 50-50. I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm betting serious money on that, that's an L.
I think you have to take the home team, right?
You have to. And that's literally the only reason. If we were playing in Miami, I would feel much more confident about that. But
So our season could be over in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks. If it's not already.
Look, here's the thing though. Not to derail this a little bit, but do we have the talent to beat them? 1,000%. We have the talent to beat most teams in this league. What's frustrating about this season, specifically for me, is the fact that we're not realizing that talent on the field when we've seen it already. You know what I mean? So in these kind of games that are 50-50, it just kind of depends on what quarter, what side of the quarter it lands on. You know what I mean?
I think we're going to talk so much about that. What you just said, we have the talent, but we're not seeing them. We're going to talk so much about their performance.
Oh yeah,
in that McDaniel Grier thing, I think.
Oh yeah, that's on my list.
Because it's got. I mean, yeah. So okay, quickly now, San Francisco in Miami.
That's a win. I think it's an easy win.
I think that's a win. Right. This one's another potential loss here, I think, to me. At Cleveland in primetime on December 29th.
So in the cold.
It's going to be cold. It's going to be night, a primetime game.
Yeah, oof.
Against a Cleveland team that's scrappy.
Look, can we win? Yes. Will we win? I'm not sure.
We should win. 3-9.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I will say this. I will pick us to win that game, not because I'm a fan. I mean, I am a fan, but not solely because I'm a fan, but because I do think that team is very ebb and flow, right? They're super high and they look, very good, or they look like garbage, and they always find a way to beat themselves. I mean, they almost lost that game last week with Jerry Jeudy having over 200 yards and Jameis having almost 5.
Yeah,
passing. I mean, and they almost lost it. So, I would chalk that up as a W for if I was picking and betting money on it.
They did lose it on Monday night.
Oh, they did lose it. Right. So,
yeah. They threw for 5. They had 500 yards and they lost.
Right. So that gives me hope.
Right? And that's because Denver had 2 pick-6s. And that's what you have to do against Jameis. Yeah.
Jalen Ramsey, baby. He's going to have 3 of them.
I have that as a 50-50 as well. And then at the New York Jets, this is a TBD. It's a flex game. Given that both teams are likely out of the playoffs by this point, I would say that's a 1:00 game on a Sunday.
Yeah. And I think if mathematically, and we'll talk about this later, I think, or we'll touch on it later, but I think mathematically, if we're out of it, I hope that our decision makers will play a lot of our more younger players to get them practice time, or get them playing time rather, not practice time. So
I don't know, man. I want to beat the Jets.
But I do think even if we're playing like Patrick Paul and Jalen Wright's getting the majority of the carries and so on, I still think the Jets are the Jets. I'm sorry, yeah. I'll never pick us to lose to the Jets, honestly.
Me either. So okay, so that puts us at 3 wins that we feel really comfortable about, and 2 games that
are 50-50.
Just really aren't in our favor in terms of the situation, the setting, the weather, the timing,
Yeah, I think we have a better chance of the two questionable games. I think we have a better chance at winning the Houston game.
That's insane, right?
We're given the
Yeah.
outside factors.
What?
Right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, the cold in Cleveland. Okay.
And prime time.
And then some news we got coming in is that it looks like Bradley Chubb and Cameron Good are they're in their window. Mike McDaniel talked about them today, and in his normal workaround way, didn't actually answer the question as to when they would play.
No. Apparently they look good. Bunch of reports and they look good in practice, like walking, running and cutting on their legs and stuff. So, hopefully
listen,
soon.
I don't expect the coach to give that information away, but the way he does it is just so annoying.
Yeah.
Like he goes, well, that's up to them. It's not up to them. It's up to you, dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on.
Let's Jesus.
Yeah.
Goodness.
I will say this, Mike McDaniel, I'm a Mike McDaniel fan. I am. But I'll tell you what, his
I can't listen to a press conference.
I can't do it. I can't do it. And I don't know what his issue is, because when he's talking anything but football, he sounds like like somebody that needs some help. But as soon as he switches over to X's and O's, the dude sounds like a savant. You know what I mean?
He just seems like he's talking down to people. Like in his press conferences, he's like, if I tell you what I really want to say, you won't understand. And it's like, that's kind of rude. But maybe we won't, but at least just give an honest answer. And I think that's why we liked him at first, because he was refreshingly honest. And now he's just a typical coach who doesn't really answer any questions.
Something else that I plan on talking about when we get to that segment later on.
All right, let's talk about key takeaways from the Packers game. I have like 2. I don't know. There's not like, I think we should probably try to come up with 3 total.
Sure. I have one that's not good if you want me to start.
It's
not necessarily about the Packers game. It's just kind of icing on the top. But Mike McDaniel is 0-3 on Thursday night football games with a cumulative score of 49 for us total points versus 88 total points for the opposition. Not good.
That's not good. That's not as many points for us as it is for them.
Nope.
I think that's how you
almost
lose.
Double. Yeah.
Oh, Nikes.
Yeah. So not good. Not good.
My takeaway was that the secondary being as good as it was a mirage. It was another one of those. It was another one of those stats don't tell the story type of things, because teams have seen that our secondary is really good, so they haven't really attacked it. They've kept the ball short. They've tried to get us with the screen game. They've tried to get us with the rushing attack, which are the rushing attack's another weakness of ours, right? But Green Bay said, screw it. We're going to call your bluff on your secondary being that good, and we're going to test them. And we lost that test.
Well, yeah, and I think that's where the injury conversation comes into play, because let's not forget we weren't anywhere close to being at full health, right? I mean, Cam Smith, Storm Duck, both should not be starting. Both got injured like quick, right? Jordan Poyer is.
Did Cater get hurt in this one too? Cater's hurt every week.
I think he got banged up. I don't know. I think he might have come back, but he missed, I think, a quarter ish. Unless I'm misremembering. Javon Holland looks like dog poop. I mean, Poyer looks like Poyer.
I've been saying that all year, man. Holland has not looked good this year at all.
Yeah. So I think for as good as our secondary played, in air quotes, I say good. We didn't play very well, but I think Weaver did a very good job at calling a good game. He switched to big nickel, put Elijah Campbell in there, who I think should be starting. He looked phenomenal this game, and really kind of leveraged our linebackers in better positions, knowing that
Quentin Bell had a game too.
Sure did. So did Brooks. Brooks played it like a man possessed this game.
You know what was the most interesting about this game is that it was the same offense. So they play the same offense as us. So quick, get the ball out of your hands in less than 3 seconds, right?
Yep.
So the pass rush was non-existent because Jordan Love got rid of the ball almost immediately every single play. It's not like we didn't have a pass rush. It's like by the time Chop hit the tackle, the ball was gone already. And we didn't play well against that, which is surprising because we practice against it.
You would think, right? You would think as the team that didn't create it, but the team that put a few wrinkles in that the league has copied since Mike McDaniel has been our head coach. You think we would know. But I'll tell you what, my biggest takeaway from this game was envy because of how that team is constructed is how I wish our team is. The analogy that I used in our group chat was it's like watching a Ferrari in a blizzard, right? We have all of the speed, but our tallest wide receiver is 5'2", right? Yeah. When you have somebody like Jalen Reed who can go up for those 50-50 balls, but also can put the speed and can hit those deep balls. Those are the kind of difference makers that we lack, which is something that I hope we address in the offseason, which is something we'll talk about in a little bit too.
I don't think it's any, I don't think it's a coincidence that Jonnu is the best player on our offense right now.
No, I don't either.
He's the only one who is not a tiny guy with really fast legs. I mean,
yeah.
Devon
Can we talk about him being a revelation,
right?
Like, I hope we sign him to a 5-year contract.
I mean, we better give him at least 3. Yeah. Like, don't let him walk. Because it's not even unrealistic to say that over this win, he was the reason we had a 3-game winning streak.
Easy.
He was the reason the offense looked competent in this game, despite only scoring 17 points. That wasn't totally the offense's fault. Looking at you, Malik, over on special teams.
Brother, special teams. I've been saying it all season. Special teams. Oof.
The problem with this game wasn't our offense. The offense looked good. But the Packers' game plan was don't let them get the ball. Yep. And they didn't.
No, and they did a damn good job of it. They really did.
They did.
And why are we not kicking it out of bounds on kickoffs and letting them get to the 40, 45, 50, 48?
Every time.
Every time. Well, what are we doing? And then in the second half, miraculously, Jason Sanders can kick a cold ball out of the end zone. So that tells me that the game plan set in place by Coach Darren, or is it Darren? Who's our Darren Rizzi?
It's not Rizzi anymore.
No, it's not Rizzi.
It's somebody else.
Whatever the hell his name
is. Special teams coordinator who's going to be gone after this season.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
That means that his game plan was to purposely kick it short and allow Green Bay to return, right? Because there is no reason. The balls weren't different. The weather was colder than it was in the first half. So we purposely kicked it short.
I wonder if that's just because Dobbs was out, right? I'm pretty sure Dobbs is their usual returner. So they're thinking, well, the returner's out. Let's see what the new one can do. But after the first time he returns the ball to the 40, maybe make an adjustment there.
The kickoff, he returns it to the 40. So what are you doing? Like, coaching has been a serious problem. And I'll say the Weaver has not been a problem this year. For all of the flack that he's caught. I mean, there was a slump in the middle of the season, and that when Tua wasn't there, the defense played really great. When Tua came back and we went on that, we were winning in spite of the defense. However, he's been our best coach, in my opinion, this whole season so far, of all of the kind of core.
I would agree. And for people who are critical, you got to remember, it's his first year being a defensive coordinator ever. This was a 4-3 defense last year. We are switching to a 3-4. So the personnel is not where it needs to be yet, right? And I have no doubt in my mind when Tyus Bowser became a free agent, Anthony Weaver said, I want him.
He's mine. Yep.
When the kid out of Seattle,
Dotson. Yeah, Terrell.
When Dotson became a free agent, I have no doubt Weaver said, I want him, right? These two have made impacts since they've been on this team, and Dotson's only been on the team for a freaking cup of coffee.
And he's looked pretty
and he looks great.
Yeah, he really does.
And Bowser, who is a journeyman pass rusher, played for the Ravens for a long time, where Anthony Weaver came from.
He's on IR now, by the way, I think.
Is he on IR? Well,
I think
when he was playing, he looked like a journeyman pass rusher. Exactly what we needed. It was perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. So, yeah. Let's get into the greatest segment in sports entertainment history.
Heck.
Now it's time for the greatest segment in all of sports media. Game Balls and Jockstraps.
I love that. I love that segment intro.
We may need to speed up the voice a little.
A little bit, but I'll be honest with you, it makes me giggle every time.
It's hilarious. Yeah, it's really funny. Okay. Game Balls and Jockstraps, if you're new here and you can't figure out what it is from context, our Game Balls are the players who we think performed really well. Our Jockstraps are the players who we think did not. Josh, let's do ours first, and then we'll talk about because Keith and Steve both did pick them. They weren't originally supposed to be out for the show. So why don't you start? We'll start with the game balls because that's there's less pickings there.
Yeah, it was hard. I'm going to be completely honest with all of our viewers and listeners and yourself, sir. But it was very difficult to pick a game ball for anyone this week. And I looking through rewatching the games and evaluating the play of kind of key positions and watching it through the lens of somebody that likes and loves football and the X's and O's, I really narrowed it down to two players. It was Achane or Brooks at linebacker. And I went with Achane just because Achane is my game ball. And I chose him because his impact is unequivocal. Week in and week out, he didn't rush for, I think he only had like 28 yards rushing or something like that. But he had 8 receptions for 40 or 50 yards. I can't remember what it was in the passing game and a touchdown. And his impact on the game, week in and week out, is just, it's the best on the team. The only player I think that gives him a run for his money is our favorite tight end, in Jonnu. And so I just think that where he didn't have his best performance, we got away from the run. I think we only rushed it 8 times the whole game. I think 9 times the whole game. Not much.
I see 14, but Tua was 2 of those. So let's say 12.
Okay, 12. Might as well be 8, right?
Might as well. Yeah.
And so I think, it limited his exposure in the run game. But in the pass game, he was productive. He was our second leading receiver, which is another thing that we can talk about. But yeah, he's my game ball.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it did this even on a day where he doesn't have a huge performance. I mean, 8 for 56 through the air. That's pretty good.
And a tud.
And a tutty. But he's just consistently just amazing on the field. He is lightning in a bottle. Every time he touches the ball, there's that opportunity for him to just break one.
Yeah, and my favorite thing about his game, I think, this year over last year is you can tell he's worked on his patience, which I think is a real big indicator on the success and the skill of a running back. It's not always about speed or power. And you look at the really great running backs and the ones today in this league currently that are good and great and really help propel their teams. They all have patience. They don't hit the hole at 1,000 miles an hour. They wait until they help set their blocks up, and then they hit the hole at 1,000 miles an hour. And he's getting so much better at that. Whereas last year he was kind of see it and hit it. Now he's okay. I'm gonna let my block develop. I'm gonna let the second tier of blocking develop, and then I'm gonna turn the jets on and run for 40 or run for 10 or run for 15 or run for 50. You know what I mean? Yeah.
No, I agree. I mean, last year he looked like a rookie who was just trying to use his speed and realized that, well, everybody's fast. So his second year, he's definitely turned more of a strategy.
Yep.
So I went with everybody's favorite tight end. I went with Jonnu because I can't think of a single offensive player who has been more impactful for this team over the past 4 games, let alone this game. Just another absolutely impeccable performance. 10 of 11 targets, 113 yards. Didn't actually find the end zone this time, but oh my God, every time he looked up, he had the ball in his hand. So, it's such a good addition.
It really is, and he's very underrated in the blocking game too. He is touted as a kind of a bigger wide receiver, if you will, at the tight end position. But I'll tell you what, our tight end coach. And that kind of group have turned him into a really good blocker. I mean, he laid some wood on a couple guys in this game, and it was one of the very few silver linings to this whole game was that Jonnu, man, he's a well-rounded player, and it makes it even more sweet because he was a very high-priced free agent for our Patriots, right, in our division, for the Patriots in our division, and he was not good at all for that.
He wasn't, no.
Not good whatsoever.
Which was crazy coming off the Falcons where he was fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. And when we get him, all of my Patriots friends are like, oh, good luck. Hope you can do something because he did nothing for us and he turns into our best offensive player. So that's
exactly why I think the strategy that true Fin fan, thank you for joining us again, my friend. But the strategy that you bring up every week is not easy. There's teams all across the NFL trying to get 2 tight ends that are really good. The Patriots have been trying since they had Gronk and Hernandez. It's not easy. It's one of the hardest things to do. So Oh, Mike Gesicki. Don't bring up Mike Gesicki. Oh, my
Oh.
goodness gracious. We are not Gesicki fans. You're bringing up the wrong person
no.
here, my friend.
Sorry, buddy.
Stone hands Gesicki.
No, I love 9 of your 10 takes, True Finn, but that one, not it, buddy. Respectfully, of course, respectfully.
Yeah, no, I love his takes because they're so different than ours. And I'm sure Keith and Steve are usually more closely on the same page there. Keith, by the way, had Zach Sealer as the game ball. Amazing.
Solid.
Right?
Just steady, consistent, just
losing Sealer for those 2 games was so painful. Like you saw it. Like that dude is the middle of our line. It's crazy.
And he also happens to be like one of my favorite players in the league just because he's fun, he's quiet, he's the anti Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, you know.
He's amazing though, because when he is pumped up, he's just like he's out there, man.
Yeah.
He's out there. Amazingly, I want to talk about Steve's game ball versus Keith's jockstrap.
Yeah, I was excited about when they both sent me their picks. I was like, oh, this is gonna be good.
I'm surprised that he's in the jockstrap category, if I'm being honest. And now I know I'm to break the not bury the lead. It's Tua. I thought Tua had a great game. Not his fault that he got sacked 5 times.
Well,
and
that's a lie. I disagree with you there.
Some of them were.
Yeah.
Some of them were. You're right.
Yeah.
I don't like this little thing he's doing where he does like this little scoot in the pocket and turns in circles 4 times. Like, what, you're trying to make yourself dizzy? What are you doing?
No. Nope. And I'll tell you why I was agreeing with Keith with putting 2 in the jockstrap. Now, statistically, you look at his stats, you're like, oh, he had a pretty damn good game, right? 2 tuds. They have a pick.
365. No picks.
No picks, right? Yeah. Threw it like 40 something times, over 70 completion. Fine. Had a decent game. Yep. But when you dig into it, Tua's lack of recognition of when to throw the ball away and just live to play another game instead of taking an 8-yard sack because you're trying. It's horrible. It's horrible. Now, I'm a Tua guy. I do believe that Tua is a franchise type quarterback. I'm not saying he's a top 5 quarterback in this league, but you don't need a top 5 quarterback in this league. If you have one, better for you, but you don't need one to win a Super Bowl. But I'll tell you what, it's getting real frustrating seeing him just try to do too much, right? Yeah. And you see his motor, you can just see his gears are like, oh, if I go left or right, and oh God, there's somebody in front of me, I got to back up. And it's just, dude, just either fall down like Tom Brady used to do.
Yeah.
And, live to fight another day, or throw the ball 70 yards out of bounds and let's start over.
You may convince me. I still think, 365 and 70% is nothing to sneeze at. I mean,
of course not. But when you're throwing the ball, 50 something times or whatever it was.
True. I will say, that you need the football smarts. You need to work on that aspect of your game where in the moment you can think to yourself, it's better if I dive forward for a 3-yard loss than it is for me to spin around in a circle 3 times, make myself so dizzy I don't know which direction is up, and then get sacked for a 12-yard loss.
Exactly.
Like, stop doing that. Yeah.
Yep. And it works 1 out of every 8 times. And that one time you're like, oh, hey, he does have wheels. Hey, he is a little shifty. And then you're like, oh, nope, just kidding.
So to quickly get through the rest, Steve had the pass rush as his jockstrap, which, we talked about before. Jordan Love, an amazingly quick release. He's got to be in the top 5. I know 2 is number 1, but he's got to be up there. And then your guy hasn't changed probably since like week 6.
Nope. Jordan Poyer. Always going to be Jordan Poyer until he's off this team. Honestly, because they're, in my opinion, and I think everyone on this show knows, the viewers, you, True Fin fans, my wife, my best friends, everyone knows I hate Jordan Poyer, right? But I don't think there has been a worse player on this team. Maybe Skylar Thompson. And if I'm comparing those two,
Duke Riley, if he were actually playing, right?
Honestly, I'm going to be honest with you, Anthony. I would take Duke Riley over Jordan Poyer at his position. Put Duke Riley back at safety because he's a better. Jordan Poyer is horrible.
He's hard. Yeah.
Now I read an article that because you and I and Keith and we all have these conversations in our group chat on our phones that our listeners aren't privy to, but I always ask, I think you've asked it a couple of times, why is Poyer starting? What does he have dirt on the coaching staff? What's going on here? And I read an article just today It was a long article on forgot what website it was Miami Dolphin beat writer or something. And he said the reason Jordan Poyer is starting is because the coaches he calls the plays on the defense and he helps get everyone aligned. And that's where he excels. It's everything else that he's bad at. And to me,
may as well just put Anthony Weaver out there then.
I mean, probably, yeah. I mean, to me, that's not a good enough reason, right? Because, okay, so he gets you aligned, great, but he's such a liability in coverage. He's such a liability in the run game. He is late with his decision-making. He can't make a tackle to save his life. He gets up and throws his hands up and looks at everyone else when he misses a tackle. And he crapped all over the team in the preseason. And I'm sorry, like, call me a guy that holds a grudge, which I'm not, but I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
Are we pretending too, like Holland or Brooks couldn't handle that? I mean,
well, fair, right? I mean, I don't like the way Holland's playing either. Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
I don't think we should re-sign him.
I think we'll talk about him in a long-term outlook section that we have to get to, I believe. Listen, I went with Malik Washington for my jockstrap. You cannot muff that punt when the defense gets a 3-and-out against an offense that is better than you.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot give them the ball right back. And then the defense still almost stopped them.
Yeah. Which is
still
wild.
Forced them to 3rd and goal before they ran the ball in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't care. I don't even remember anything else he did in that game with Josh. So I'm being completely honest with you. If he made another flub, I didn't remember it because all I saw was red for Malik Washington after that play.
No, he muffed the first one and lost it. And then he muffed the second one, but I think we got it back. I'm pretty sure. But, this was a typical rookie and too big of a moment type game.
Yeah.
Right. And I understand the coaching staff wants, he gives us the best opportunity to return with his speed. He's a very good blocker as the 3rd wide receiver. I mean, if you look at this game, I think he almost doubled snaps of OBJ as wide receiver 3 because he's a very good blocker. I get it. But man,
in a game like this, bro, give me Tyreek back there.
You can't do it. Yes. Yeah. I mean, Tyreek's not doing anything else. Might as well.
Right. I mean, and they last year when we were in the playoffs, who was returning punts?
Yep.
It was Tyreek. Like, you put your best guy on the field in a game like this. So nothing against Malik. I think Malik has had
he's had a really good season
for like a 7th round pick. It's not bad.
Yeah. Who I'd like to see return him is like Jalen Wright or Echan or someone. You know what I mean?
Sure. Get Jeff Wilson out there. He ain't doing anything.
There you go. Is he even still on the team?
I have no idea. Actually, they asked him about that today. They asked McDaniel if he was, since our yards per carry was so low. Thank you, true Phins fan. If he would consider like putting Mostert or Wilson out there more. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this is a beat writer who has not watched this team or something, or is like what is happening right now?
New to the job.
Right. Like, why would Achan is quite all right, my guy. He is doing just fine.
He really is. Yeah.
All right. Let's get into we have 3 segments. I kind of want to run them into each other.
Sure.
It's so funny. We talked about only talking 30 minutes about the Packers game. That didn't happen because we get all riled up.
Strike 3.
Strike 3. So let's call the next segment the future of the Miami Dolphins. We have a lot of stuff that we are going to talk about this offseason. We have a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about once the team is officially eliminated.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think it's terrible to start talking about those things now because I think the powers that be in the Miami Dolphins are starting to talk about those things now. There's no way that a lifelong Dolphins fan like Stephen Ross, despite giving both of these guys an extension, is looking at the same thing that we're looking at. Fans tend to think that the owners don't pay attention. I don't know where they get that from.
I don't either.
He very clearly sees that we haven't beat a winning team. Right? Except for if you count the Rams, who are 6-6. Okay.
I don't. But
right? Now, so what are we doing here? Right? What are we doing with the coach? What are we doing with the GM? It's the first time I've seriously, and we talked about this weeks ago, so it's not the first time I saw it, but this is the first season I've thought to myself, I don't know that Mike McDaniel is the guy
Nope.
to bring us to a championship.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you. Look, I mean, I admitted earlier preseason show all throughout the season, I am a Mike McDaniel guy. From a football mind standpoint, I think Mike McDaniel brings so much to the table. And I think and my argument throughout the first, 2/3 of the season has been he's earned enough real estate or runway, if you will, to see if he can right the ship, right? I mean, you look back at our last 2 seasons. For me, I've been a Dolphins fan since the 80s, right? These have been some of the most fun 2 seasons. Not this one. This one's been atrocious, but the 2 seasons prior have been really exciting for being a Dolphins fan, right? Seeing the Tua rehabilitation and getting kind of the right players in and really the run game genius and Mike McDaniel turning into the quick pass Shanahan offense. I mean, it was awesome. And then seeing it all come to fruition last year with beating Denver by 70 something points, averaging on the season 30 plus points a game. I mean, awesome. And then the problem is that defensive coordinators also have jobs, right? Yeah. And their sole responsibility is to study, figure out how to beat you, and implement that. And you see other teams making adjustments. And my biggest frustration, Anthony, you and I have had hours of conversations about this. The biggest frustration is we don't seem to make adjustments. Not pregame, not during game, not at halftime. It's frustrating because you see a stubborn coaching staff sticking with what they think they should do instead of seeing what the opposition is doing and making adjustments off of it. We know you can do it. We've seen you do it. It's insanely frustrating.
And so much about, coaching and at a level that they're coaching at, right, is you're not just coaching for the now. Like, you need to have the foresight. You need to say, this is what we've been doing. This is what they could potentially deploy that will stop that. So we're going to switch to this. But that's not where it ends. And that's where it seems like it ends for our staff. Because from there, you have to say to yourself, well, if we switch to this, maybe they're thinking of that we're going to switch to this too, and they're making a game plan for that. Like, you need to have 3 plans of action each week to be able to counter whatever they're going to shift to, right? And part of that's not just coaching. Part of it's having the players that understand that. I think that's why, one of the most hated people to a Miami Dolphins fan is Tom Brady. But if you are a football fan, there's no way you could watch this man play and not just appreciate the sheer number of things he was doing on the field, right? Like, now that he's an announcer and he talks about it, now we already got to see it. We played them twice a year. We saw all of this in real time.
I love him as an announcer, man. It was so much fun listening to him.
He's good.
Oh, he's so good.
We'll see if it wears off like it has with Romo, but at least in his first year. But the thing is, though, he talks about, like, it's just seeing the field. I would line up, he says. This is what I would see. I would move A to this, B to this, to take advantage of the fact that they are now playing this to counter us, right? That's what you need. And listen, Tua is picking that up. Yes. Everybody keeps talking about it. Everybody in the beat writers who are talking to the people in the building have mentioned that Tua is doing better at this than he has ever done before. He is reading defenses better than he ever has. He's making adjustments better than he ever has. But it's still not at the level that it needs to be. I saw him twice in this Packers game, audible to a run that was then absolutely exploded upon in the backfield. Why are you audibling to a run? The only reason I could think of is that you see them in a pass defense formation that you think you can exploit. And that tells me that you misread that defense twice now on these audibles. So, like, it's a whole organization thing when it comes to the coaching. And I know, like, everybody always wants to pin one person on it because that's the head coach, right?
Dude, you're the CEO.
You need to have everybody else prepared. You need to have Tua seeing what you're seeing. And he needs to have his receiver seeing what he's seeing. And, like, it needs to trickle down, and not just in a funny trickle down economics that never actually works kind of way, in a real in a real football knowledge, everybody's on the
Mhm.
same page, so that when Tua walks to that line and he sees a blitz coming from the right, he doesn't even have to tell Jonnu because Jonnu knows, right?
Yep.
And now he knows and Tua knows they're on the same page, and Jonnu is going to chip that guy just by instinct
Mhm.
because that's what they've practiced, that's what they've reviewed in the film. That's like, it's frustrating because the team is filled with talent.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Everywhere you look, there's talent.
Mhm.
Even places we didn't think we had talent.
Mhm.
And I don't agree with you at all, true Fin fan. I'm going to throw that up so other people see what I'm talking about. You can't give all the... how are you giving credit for reading the defense of the tight end? That's silly. Okay, taking that away. The point is that we are not getting it done when it matters the most. There's a disconnect somewhere. And that's why it goes back to the head coach, right? It goes back to, is McDaniel making sure that everybody has all the information that they need to have in order to make the adjustments in this game or any game and feel empowered to do so?
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting because you can tell. So this team, to me, and I've noticed this specifically in the Mike McDaniel era, is this team, when they do not practice on short week games, when they have short week games, right? I mean, I said it earlier, we're 0-3 on Thursday night games, and we've been almost double lapped on scoring. On short week games, we do not practice. We do walkthroughs. But we do not do full practices. And you can tell this team needs ramp up. This team needed, if you look, we played much better towards the end of the second quarter and into the third. I mean, we still lost, but we were a much better team towards the middle and end of that game than we were to start. Those are the kind of decisions that I question McDaniel on, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you stick with the screen game when you've tried it 5 times in a row and it's gotten us negative 18 yards.
I hate it.
How about you try something else, buddy? I mean, you can go back to it if you need to, but stop running it and stop running the little fades to Tyreek. He's the smallest guy on the field, right? He's dynamic. He's amazing, right? But he's not a 50-50 ball kind of wide receiver. So why are you doing it? And you can tell that Mike McDaniel gets some moments for him get too big for him in a way. And I don't know if that's true or not. That's just from a fan's point of view, from my perspective.
What it looks like. Yeah.
It's what it looks like because you can tell he panics, right? There is no reason we should be running the ball 18 times, whatever it was, 14 times, 12 times in the game only. Like, you have to have a balanced offense because all of our offensive structure is predicated on play action passing. Well, if the defense knows you're not running the ball, they're not going to fall for it. And, you can tell he tries to make it up in one pass instead of letting the game plan and the game structure that you've put into place ebb and flow with the game. He just nixes it all when something goes wrong and then immediately starts throwing the ball down the field like we have Peyton Manning behind the center when we don't,
Yeah. And so the other thing is that like I've been calling for this since we had a backup quarterback in. Simplification. And this seems to run not just with Mike McDaniel, but you're seeing it in San Francisco too. Like the overcomplication of the offense when to me, I feel like you only need to do that if you're lacking talent. We're not lacking talent. The only thing we're lacking is getting that talent involved. Why is Jalen Waddle only getting 4 targets a game?
Dude, that's another thing, man. You have 2 wide receivers, right, that are a combined 70, almost $80 million on your cap, and they're averaging 4 targets a game.
And that's why, I go back to this, and I best of luck, true Fin fan.
Yes.
But I want to go back to this. This is coming from a place of frustration that our 2 top receivers are not involved, right? And now True Fin fan's been in here talking about having 2 tight ends all year. And listen, I would love it if that actually happened. It just is way more difficult than anything. So, but I see his frustration because the superstars that led Tua to lead the league in passing last year are invisible this year.
I just don't get it. And that's goes back to Mike McDaniel being stubborn with his game plan because defenses have figured him out. They know to pack the middle of the field and let you beat them long on the outside of the numbers, which we can't do. And
No, and we're not even taking chances, dude.
you know what I mean? And that's where my comment about the Green Bay game, which one of my takeaways was I was envious of how that team was built. And this goes to Chris Grier's problem, which I think, spoiler alert, I'm ready to see Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel gone. I don't know what that means for Tua, but I want to get fresh perspective back into this organization. Spoiler alert. I'm sorry if I jumped the gun on that, but
no, let's slide right into it. Let's slide right into it because we gotta get to the Jets game at some point. So
I mean, do we really though?
No, but yes, I think some people listening may want to hear about it. You know,
Keith, if you're listening, I apologize.
So I'm glad you brought that up though, because part of me is like, yeah, I want McDaniel gone. The other part of me is like, this is the best version of Tua we've ever seen.
I know, and that's where it's hard. Yeah.
But the problem is that this best version of Tua we've ever seen is so careful with the ball that we have kind of lost what made us so dangerous last year, prior to Thanksgiving last year. What made us so dangerous last year, what made us the most talked about team in all of media last year, was we were taking shots, dude.
Oh, yeah. We to the point where we were like, stop taking shots, dude.
We were taking shots on 3rd and 1. It didn't matter.
It didn't make sense.
We were taking shots on shots on shots. We were like a friggin' rapper out there in a club, right? But now that Tua has gotten
Anthony.
Now that Tua has gotten more football knowledge, has gotten more involved in developing the offense, has gotten better at reading defenses, he has lost that part of him that takes those chances.
Yep.
Everything he throws is virtually a high percentage throw.
Yeah. There's no urgency to his game, if that makes sense.
Like, I get it. Every team is playing 2 high safeties to stop from getting beat. But on Monday night, we saw Bo Nix throw a ball to Marvin Mims, who had 3 high safeties, and thread the needle.
Yeah. It was a beautiful throw, by the way, for those that haven't seen it.
93 yards for a touchdown. That's why you take the chance. Because that could happen. That could blow the game upside down, right?
Yeah.
And like, we're still seeing his short to middle, what's that called? Intermediate. We're still seeing his short to intermediate game excel. Like, it's never excelled before.
Please understand, for those listeners that are here, we're not crapping on Tua.
No. He looks amazing.
He looks awesome this year. But the problem, to your point, Anthony, is that he's lost the edge where it's like, you know what? No, I'm just gonna bomb it. It's almost like he doesn't trust his receivers, if that makes sense. And I know that's not true. Well, that's fair. You know, and I will say Armstead's probably playing the best ball of his career.
Yeah. But I mean, like, look at the Packers game, man. He did not trust who was in there. We had some backups in. He was 1 read, 2 read, and usually Tua is amazing at getting through all his reads. It was 1 read, 2 read, let me spin in circles because I can't figure out what I'm doing now because somebody's about to annihilate me, right? He was sacked 5 times in this game. Some of them are his fault. But
3 on the offensive line, 2 on Tua.
Here's the thing, right? Here is like the cherry on top for the McDaniels Grier argument is, let's look at the teams that are dominating the league right now. There are 4 teams, I think, that are playing absolutely dominant football. I think that's the Chiefs and the Bills, as usual. And I think that's the Lions and the Eagles.
The Lions, man. Campbell, I'm so happy for him.
So happy for the Lions, right? Do you think this team could beat any of those teams?
No.
I think we get crushed by those teams.
I think it would look like, honestly, starters against starters, everyone healthy. I think we could keep it close with Buffalo. I think we could keep
That's a division game, though.
Right?
Let's take Buffalo out. What about the other 3?
I don't know, man.
I think the Chiefs would have the best bet because they have lucked into some serious wins this year.
Yeah, right. But I think we would get like 70 points laid on us by Detroit, if I'm being honest.
Oh, Detroit and Philadelphia. Either of those teams is absolutely.
I don't know about Philadelphia. I'm not high on Philadelphia this year. I mean, Saquon Barkley is the reason they're winning all these games. Which
we have a run defense that can't stop anybody.
Right,
so, I mean,
wet paper towel. But you know,
he's got to run for 300 on it. So
fair.
Listen. So when I look at McDaniels and Grier, I look at Howie Roseman in Philadelphia.
Oh man, I would love to have him.
No, I'm just so torn, and we're going to talk about this so much, and we're going to move on to the Jets in a second. Anybody who's here for the Jets talk. I'm so torn on what to do with these two men because Chris Grier has certainly got to be given credit for putting the amount of talent on this team that's there, right? And we like to say, why didn't you get an offensive line? Dolphins fans in general just love the whole, why didn't you draft an offensive lineman?
Nauseating.
But Grier is the type who works with his coach. If he goes to McDaniel and McDaniel says, or even the offensive line coach is more likely who he's going to. And he goes to the offensive line coach and he says to him, hey, how do you feel about this group?
What do you need? Yeah.
Right. And that offensive line coach says, I feel really good about this group. Like, I don't think you need to, he wouldn't say, I don't think you need to use the first round pick. Chris Grier is not going to ask somebody if he should use a first round pick on an offensive lineman. But like, if he says, yeah, I feel pretty good about it. I think we could use depth here as opposed to, I hate this group. Yeah. I need a starter, right? Like, and then we get to the point where okay. Now we're at the coaching side because he gets Patrick Paul in the second round. He gets Chop Robinson in the first round. This is everything we should want. We get a guy on the one trenches, and then we get a guy in the other trenches. Yep. Right,
and both who have physical skills out the wazoo, who are specimens. They both look like they've been made in labs for their specific positions. And
I just don't. Yeah, we're going to talk about this so much in the offseason. I don't know what the answer is. Right now, I feel angry because we can't beat a good team.
Yeah.
And I blame everybody for that. Right? But at the end of the season, maybe a month after we're through, and we're sitting there thinking about it as we regret watching another Super Bowl that doesn't involve our team for the 400th time. Am I going to feel the same way? Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's a very good question. And I think I tend to tie the head coach and the GM together, which is incorrect. You should never do that. Right? So I always think, okay, well, if I want the head coach gone, that means the GM's gone too, which isn't the case.
I do like to do that though. If you're going to make a cut, make a clean one.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Don't cut the tumor off completely. Don't leave any, right. You don't want it to metastasize. Look at that medical term. You're welcome, folks. Oh, look, I slept at a Holiday Inn Express. All right. But honestly, of the two men, and I can't believe I'm saying this, if I only could fire one, I think I would lean towards McDaniel right now over Grier. Personally,
I would too, because I don't see the adjustments they need to make.
Not at all. I mean, he is playing the same offense that he played 2 years ago.
Yeah. And nobody's falling for it anymore.
No.
And the 4 games without Tua were an embarrassment.
That was the decision maker in my mind of the two men.
The fact that you couldn't adjust to that, I think all of us, we were all on the same page at that time. We were all like, okay, McDaniel will this is make or break for him.
Yeah.
How does he react to this? And it wasn't good.
Yep.
And I think that's...
And there were reports that came out. He specifically stopped Chris Grier. They had I don't know how true this is. Obviously, I'm not in the room. But there were numerous conversations about the backup quarterback position. And for everything that I've read,
Mike
McDaniel, Skyler's been in my system for 3 years. Go get me Tim Boyle as a backup. We'll be fine. We look like
then you let Skyler play a half of a game, and then you never put him back in there.
Which I'm happy with. I'm fine. I'd rather play the Wildcat all game than have Skylar Thompson back in there.
I agree, but how do you have so much conviction in the kid for the entire offseason and then only give him a half?
I mean, imagine this team if we had Jameis Winston. He was available.
So many were available.
Right?
So many.
Throwing a name out there, right? Imagine this team with Jameis Winston for those 4 games. You don't think Jameis Winston would bomb it 80 yards to Tyreek Hill?
We would have won at least one of them.
Right? I mean, but those are the decisions. And what's frustrating is, look, You, me, Keith, Steve, we study football. We love it. It's our passion. We follow players out of college. We prep for drafts like we are GMs of teams. Here's the thing, though. We see it. We could tell you that he's not good. And I'm not making your money. I'm not a head coach of a football team. And that's what's troubling to me.
You know what I compare it to, though? And I think the better comparison isn't us on the outside looking in on a team that we love and feeling that we can make those decisions better. We know in reality we can't.
Well,
Most of the time.
I could tell you Skylar Thompson is garbage.
Right.
Pretty confident.
But what I compare it to is like your fantasy team. When you take a guy in the first round and he's trash.
Like Trey McBride.
You will... Let's say... It doesn't matter who it is. If you took that guy in the first round, you are more than likely holding on to him for the whole season.
Yeah.
Right? You're not getting rid of him. And I think that's what the coaches get. They're human too. They're just like us. Yeah. They are like, their profession is football. Their specialty is football, and ours is not. But they are still human, and they still fall for the same crap that we do. That he knows Skylar Thompson, the person. He knows Skylar Thompson, the practice player. He has a special place in his heart for Skylar Thompson. He did not realize that this guy's absolute trash until he threw him into a game. And by that time, it's too late.
Yeah, and that's where I put some blame on both of those men, right? Yeah. I mean, that's Chris Grier. At some point, I get he's a head coach friendly GM, right? And I love that. I genuinely think that's smart. Cool. I mean, buy the groceries for the guy that's making the dinner.
Yeah.
Don't just hand him a bunch of stuff like, and say, figure it out, stupid. Right. I think at a certain point in certain moments, you are higher on the food chain. You have been in this organization for 16, 17 years. I can't remember how long Chris Grier has been around.
A long time.
At a certain point, you have the clout and you have the title to put your foot down and say, no, I respect your opinion. You can do it tactfully, but we are not going into this with a injury-prone starter who we just paid $250 million to. We are not going into the season with Skylar Thompson. I respectfully disagree with your take on him. I will get you somebody that I think can be a backup, and I'll work with you for it, but it's not going to be him.
Right. You got a Sonny Weaver Jr. That crap right there. You got, let me do my job. You do yours.
I love that.
Yeah. And like that, you are supposed to be the talent evaluator, not your coach. Your coach is supposed to coach the talent.
And he's done a very good, I know he catches flack all the time. I think he's done a pretty damn good job at evaluating talent. Now, he doesn't pick the talent that he evaluates very well, but he's brought in a lot of talented players, both free agents and rookies.
Yep.
Right?
We do really well at UDFAs, man.
Oh, it's amazing.
Really well. Yeah. All right. Speaking of players, though, let's get into a few players before we get into the Jets game that we're dreading talking about anyways because it's the Jets.
Yep. It's going to be a quick show if we're just talking about the Jets. We're going to win.
So realistically, there's nothing we can do about Tua. He signed the contract. You can't get out of that contract.
Well, you can. I did a whole show on it if anyone wants to go watch it.
That's true. You did.
Yeah. We can get out of it this year with very, very minimal damage. I'm not saying we will or we even should. But if we clean house in the front office and we decide, fine.
Oh, so that's where the poison pill is after this year.
Yep. So we have until March.
So there is an extremely big decision weighing on Stephen Ross because it's not just your GM and your coach; it's your quarterback too.
Yep. And it's not like a clean cut. I mean, we're still be on the hook for, I think it's $38 million next year, or
anything less than 50 is impressive given the contract.
And then it's 8, 8, and 7 for the remaining 4 years of his contract, which is
just a signing bonus, right? Yeah, right. I think So they have to make a decision about Tua. Now, I don't know if either of us are equipped to say whether or not we would keep him without knowing who the next coach is going to be.
We can't. But
there's no way
now. I don't see a better option. Put it to you that way.
Certainly not. Nobody in the draft.
Right. I mean, any of the top teams aren't going to trade their quarterback.
Right. Nobody's trading a quarterback. I love when fans do that. Why don't we trade for Mahomes? Who the hell is trading Mahomes?
You couldn't give them. We wouldn't have a first round pick forever.
No.
In perpetuity.
And they still wouldn't do it. This isn't back in the Ricky Williams days where you could just trade your whole draft for one guy.
That's crazy.
Like Ditka, then go play golf.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at there's two guys coming off. We've talked about these guys before. They are free agents after this year. Clean cut UDFAs. They're not UDFAs, UFAs. Unrestricted free agent. UFAs.
UFRAs. Or whatever.
Whatever. Why do I get into acronyms?
I don't know.
I could have just said unrestricted free agents. All right, whatever. Javon Holland and Jalen Phillips are the two.
Yep.
In the past, I've suggested that I would more than likely not keep either of them.
Mm-hmm.
As we've gone through the season, nothing they've done has proven. I mean, Phillips is hurt again, and Holland has played
like
badly.
Yep.
So to me, what has happened since week 3 or whatever when we predicted these things has just solidified my opinion that I don't want to keep either of them. Jalen Phillips is a fantastic story, but he can't stay on the field.
When he's on the field, he's a menace, right?
On the field, he's an absolute menace. But if you're not there, you're not there. And then but we also traded for availability. But we also traded for another guy who's in the same boat in Bradley Chubb, and is the reason that Denver didn't re-sign him, or traded him. I mean, teams don't trade away good pass rushers if they're available all the time and wreaking havoc.
Sure don't.
So if you're asking me, do I want to pay Jalen Phillips what it's going to take to keep him? Likely $30 million a season, I would guess.
Not quite. With
25.
You could probably get him under. I think you could realistically get Jalen Phillips 20 a year.
I think the money matters a lot. Does his representation feel like he should be paid like Max Crosby, or do they feel like he should be paid like a mid-tier pass rusher?
Emmanuel Ogbah.
Right.
No, I think. Not that you asked. My opinion on this. Yeah, my opinion on this is Holland's out the door. He's going to be $90+ million, right?
You can't. I just don't believe in paying safeties, dude.
I love Javon Holland. I think he's awesome, but he's played like crap. What's troubling with Holland is this is a contract year for him, for all intents and purposes, and you don't show up of all years to not show up.
Yeah,
like bye. Okay, we can. Spoiler alert: I do mock drafts every other week. I don't share them with anybody, but it's my passion. I have us taking a very, very good safety in round 1. So, Holland's gone, in my opinion. Now, Phillips is a different story because I think, to your point, the best ability is availability, right? And
it's your point that you made for me, actually.
Yes. Well, we're a team, buddy. I'm trying to give you credit. and I think to your point, money is going to matter, right? Where does he slot in, right? I mean, if he's going to do, I don't want to call it a team friendly deal, but understand that he's never been healthy for a full season. I don't think ever, as he's in a Miami Dolphins jersey.
Never.
Okay. Take that into account. Yes. When you are on the field, you're probably a top. If he was fully healthy all season, where would you rank him? Assuming he gets double-digit sacks, which is not unheard of, right?
Yeah, I'd pay him as a top 5 pass rusher.
Right. So he's going to want top 5 pass rusher money. We're going to want to pay him, dude, you can't stay healthy money. So depending on if it's a reasonable ask, I think we should re-sign him because I think him and Chop, oh boy, oh brother, right? That's a scary tandem. But if he's gonna plant his flag in the sand and say, no, I don't care if I'm on the field. You're paying me what I feel like I'm owed. Bye. And we lose both of them.
Yeah.
Which sucks because we had a chance to trade Javon Holland this offseason and we said no. So we're going to lose him for nothing, I think.
So Phillips to me would be the least likely surprise if we decide to keep him because pass rushers are hard to come by and even injured ones get paid a lot of the time.
Yep.
JPP got paid many, many years after blowing up his own hand. Continued to get paid.
With a firework.
With a firework, right?
Insane.
Holland, to me, I have the only instance I can think of, and most teams do not pay their safeties. And we've seen such big name safeties get shown the door.
Right? But they get big contracts in the last 2 off seasons. Safeties
for the next team.
Yeah.
I remember Eric Waddle, one of the greatest safeties we've ever watched. And the Chargers were like, bye. Right? The only one I can really remember backfiring, and maybe this is recency bias because it just happened, was Xavier McKinney leaving the Giants. He goes to Green Bay, and he leads the league in interceptions, right?
Yeah, Buda Baker deserved every penny that he got. That dude's a menace.
Yeah, he's a menace for sure. I just don't believe in paying safeties, though. I think, to me, it's just not one of the important positions that you pay. And I think defensive ends, so that if we pay Phillips, that's why I don't care that much. Defensive ends are huge. Your quarterback is huge. Your offensive line is huge. Everywhere else, I feel like if you want to skimp, okay.
Yep.
You know?
I'm with you 1,000%. That's why I think, spoiler alert to our future show, I think Tyreek Hill needs to go. I
was just going to bring him up. Tyreek, what do we do with Tyreek? So we're getting towards the back half of his contract with us, even though I think he just signed like a 1-year extension or something like that.
Yeah, but for money purposes, so he could be a top 3 paid wide receiver in the league.
Right. I don't think it's an egregious cap hit. I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Not. If we trade him too, it's hardly anything.
So I have a really hard time saying that I would trade Tyreek Hill. I know that this has been a really down year for him. And I think so much of my opinion on this would be who is the coach, right? Mm-hmm. If it's McDaniel still, if it's McDaniel still, I might be more likely to trade him. Because
that's fair. He doesn't use them.
He doesn't. I mean, we had 9 targets this past week. It was quite obvious it was a focus to get him the ball. But to me, Tyreek, in my mind, is still one of the top 3 players in the NFL.
Hands down, which is why I think now is the time to trade him, right? I am fully on it. This is not maybe not. For me, you trade Tyreek Hill this offseason and you don't look back, right? Because I think you can get the best haul. Now, he is a depreciating value, so we're not going to get what we paid for him from Kansas City. But
what did they just give up for Devontae? The Jets.
I have no clue.
All right, let me look that up while you go.
2nd and a 4th, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, you go and I'll look that up.
I think no matter who the head coach is, right, we have too much similarity on this team, right? And this goes back to my comment about the Green Bay, about being envious, because they have a Jalen Waddle type. They have a kind of a bigger body, fast wide receiver that can win those 50-50 in is it Jalen Reed? No. Is that his name? Jalen Reed?
Jaden Reed.
Jaden Reed.
Yep.
Right. I think, in my opinion, right, if from the couch, if I'm the couch GM of the Miami Dolphins, you trade Tyreek Hill, you try to get a first and a later round pick if you can. If not, you get a couple seconds in a play or whatever. You figure it out, right? You get what you can. You get them off the roster because we have too much similarity, right? So you have 2 players that are short and that are fast, really fast. I mean, super fast. And Tyreek Hill is much twitchier than Jalen Waddle. Mm-hmm. But I think they are still very, very similar players, right? I think if you take Tyreek Hill out of the equation, you can slot Jalen Waddle into his routes and not really genuinely, assuming Jalen Waddle is playing up to his potential, see a massive drop-off. Not going to be the same player by any stretch because, to your point, Hill is a top 2 wide receiver, top 3 wide receiver in this league, and it's not even a question.
I mean, I think it's in the top 10 of players, just players.
General,
like,
right?
Yeah.
Not even positional, but
right,
overall.
Just all players. Yeah.
But I think you then turn around and not only use the assets that you get in return, which will be a couple draft picks, maybe more, and then a compensatory pick potentially, right? If he ends up not. Wait, no, that's only if you let him.
Only if you let him go. Yeah,
that's never mind. Sorry, so no comp pick, but you get my point. And then you add a different type of player, so you get a bigger bodied starter, wide receiver 2. Wide receiver 1 that is completely polar opposite of what you have in Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Mm-hmm. You get that 6'2", 6'3" guy that can run fast, that can catch. So a higher end draft pick, for example, or you pay or you trade or you do something to get somebody in this building that can give you some different options on offense. So you're not consistently having to throw fades to Tyreek Hill, right? I think that, and not to mention the cap savings, right? Because you're no longer paying $30 million plus for a wide receiver who's getting targeted 4 times a game on average, right?
So it was a 3rd round pick for Devontae Adams. With conditional, it could be a 2nd if he made an All-Pro, which is not going to happen. So
I still think you can get a 1st for Tyreek Hill, depending on the team.
I think if you could get a 1st, you got to do it. Mm-hmm. I just think the chances are pretty slim. I think you're looking at a low second, maybe a high
You
third.
just said and I agree with you that he's a top 10 player.
That doesn't mean that
right?
teams are going to be willing to trade for him, though.
I just think you get a contender, right? Or somebody, even like, not that you would ever trade him in division, but I'm just using this as an example. I'm not saying that this would happen or that we want this to happen, but a team like the Patriots, who have a young rookie quarterback, who have no weapons. You imagine a team like that, Bo Nix, send him to Denver. Give Bo Nix Tyreek Hill. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
You got to find a GM who's willing to wheel and deal. I mean, my number one call would be Philly if they didn't already have 2 studs at wide receiver.
Yeah.
But
I'd call it Tennessee.
I mean, if we can make that happen and then sign a guy who's unhappy like a T. Higgins, I mean, I think...
Dude, I would be thrilled to swap those two. Not because I think T. Higgins is a better player.
No, but he's different.
Hill, but he's different.
And there's no doubt that Grier and his team are thinking about this. I mean, what are they doing all offseason other than this, right? I mean, or all season, I mean, obviously they're picking up and but okay.
Or maybe swap with Cincinnati. Get Jamar Chase in here.
I mean, he's another fast guy, but he's much bigger than Tyreek. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
I don't think they're moving Chase though.
I don't think they can afford to. I mean,
I think that would be stupid of them. They're downgrading on age. Okay, let's go.
Anyways,
two quick guys I just want to bring up. Jonnu, I think we both agree we would like to re-sign him.
Absolutely.
Also, Cater is a free agent this offseason. I would love to see him get re-signed.
Me too, but I won't lose sleep if he doesn't.
Yeah, right. It was an undrafted free agent, so it is what it is. All right. Let's move into the Jets game.
Yeah.
We are the 5-7 Miami Dolphins. We are at home versus the 3-9 New York Jets. I think it's safe to say the season has not gone the way that either team thought it was going to go. New York Jets were coming into the 2024 season as also potential Super Bowl contenders from many talking heads. Certainly many analysts picked them to win the East, which is absolutely mind-boggling to me because I didn't even pick the Dolphins. I picked the Bills. Right? I don't know how you pick anybody else, but they came in as the darlings. They finally get Aaron Rodgers in a full season. Everything is going to click now. All the puzzle pieces are in place. Now we got this beautiful canvas. Instead, somebody took a giant pile of manure a la Back to the Future and dumped it all over the beautiful puzzle because their season has been a disaster.
Oof. Just whenever I get down on the Dolphins, I just go
look
watch
at the Jets.
I just go watch some highlights of the Jets, and it makes me feel much better.
And we live in Jets. I mean, I live in Jets region. You're close enough to it.
Close enough. Yeah.
You're
more Patriots than Jets, but same.
Yeah. And it's a wonderful thing. I mean, if you're a Jets fan watching this, I'm sorry. There's no love lost, my friend. Jets fans get on my nerves like no other fan base.
Yep.
Now, let's just look at them for a sec. They have wins against Tennessee, New England, and then a surprise win against Houston out of nowhere.
Well, Houston hasn't been who they... Right.
I get it. Houston hasn't been who we thought they were, but they're still an 8-5 team right now.
They have 8 wins? Holy crap, I didn't know.
Yeah. So they got shellacked by Arizona, who we went down to the wire with. They lost to Indianapolis, who we also lost to. They lost to Seattle, who we also lost to.
Well,
this game, this game is in Miami, which is automatically in our favor. I know we don't have much of a home field advantage from a fan's perspective, but we show up for these Jets games, right? And I don't know a nice way to say this.
Don't be nice.
The Jets organization is
hot garbage.
The most embarrassing organizations in all of sports.
Yep.
Not just the NFL, all of them. And we're talking more embarrassing than the Athletics, who are literally telling their fans not to come to games, right? Like this. Yeah, from the top down, they fire Robert Saleh, who you and I both have a lot of respect for.
I'd love him on our team, man.
Would love for him to come to the Dolphins. Yeah, yeah. They fire him after week 4 or something like that, week 5.
Like that's going to solve anything.
What does that even do for you? But then let's throw a cherry on top of this bad boy. Let's fire the GM in the middle of the season. That's something that good organizations do. I have no idea what this organization is doing. But what
let's turn
know,
around and give a 3rd round pick for
right,
Devontae Adams.
I don't disagree that the GM maybe deserved to be fired. He made a lot of boneheaded moves, but he also put a lot of talent on this team.
Dude, their defense is Super Bowl quality, or was at the beginning of the season.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very long-winded way of introducing this game. But I wanted to paint this picture of this team that, despite anything that has happened on the field, is just so disproportionately bad at everything they do that it has trickled down to the field. It doesn't matter the talent they have. I would argue they are a top 10 team in terms of talent.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah. It's just a matter of realizing that talent, which they're not good at.
That talent's not doing crap. Breece Hall, who looked like an absolute Barry Sanders-esque superstar last year, looks like he doesn't even know what running back means.
Looks like Raheem Mostert. Sorry, guys.
They got Garrett Wilson, who I only imagine is annoyed beyond belief at this point that they couldn't even get him the ball. So I got a good idea. Let's bring in another number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, it's insane.
Right? So now Garrett Wilson's the number 2. Wilson, by the way, some of the best hands I've ever seen on a wide receiver. If we want to trade Tyreek for him, sign me up.
All day. I would take that 7 days of Sunday and pay you twice on the following Wednesday. I mean, like, dude, he is such a good player.
Such a good player.
Him and Breece Hall.
If you're a Jets fan and you're down on Garrett Wilson, I get it. You see him every day. We are down on players that other fan bases probably aren't because we see them every day. Let me just tell you, from the outside looking in, Garrett Wilson is an absolute stud.
Baller. Yep.
Do not let him go over a 40-something-year-old quarterback who can't barely walk.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. Aaron Rodgers.
He's an organization destroyer.
I mean, the Death Star of NFL franchises, right? It's just.
And I haven't even talked about their defensive talent.
It's insane to me how you can let somebody come in. I mean look, I am an anti-Jets guy through and through to my core. Right. Because not just because I'm a Dolphins fan. I just don't like Jets fans. I think they're obnoxious. No offense.
The most obnoxious. Right? The most.
But you were, I can't believe it tastes like vinegar saying this out loud, but they were a quarterback away.
They were 100%.
You chose, from a Dolphins fan perspective, you chose perfectly. Thank you very much.
Yeah, 100. Yeah.
But if I'm putting myself in the Jets fans' shoes, you chose wrong. Anyone, pick any. Jameis Winston, Bo Nix.
All of these quarterbacks that are doing well that were just drafted in the past 2 seasons.
That's insane to me.
Are you telling me as a Jets fan you wouldn't have rather thrown a dart? Even on Bryce Young, who's starting to look better.
Mm-hmm.
Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Bo Nix. Will Levis is starting to turn it on right now.
Who's the Commanders quarterback from LSU?
Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels, yeah.
Drake May up there.
Caleb Williams is hot garbage, but
Caleb Williams, I mean, he looks better than Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, I look better than Rodgers.
But the influx of talent these past 2 seasons compared to the lack of quarterback talent coming in this current draft, it's like, wow, maybe you should have fired the GM last year.
Yeah.
Right? So, all right, we could go on and on about this, dude.
We really could.
We really, really could. If you couldn't tell, we're more than just Dolphins fans. We follow the whole league.
Keys to victory.
Keys to victory.
I got some.
Let's go.
So I think first and foremost, we need to contain the Jets defense. Right. I think that is where right now they hang their hat on, which they should. I think they have a very good defense.
Explain that to me. Contain the defense is not something you hear very often.
Yeah. I think, they excel at pressuring the quarterback. That is what they are known for. Their defensive line is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
When you factor in our offensive line play as of late, it's even more terrifying. So I think when I say contain their defense, what I mean is how I should have phrased it is we need to contain their pass rush. Right. Our offensive line needs to play the best game that they've played all season. And I know they're the lowly Jets, and I get that, and they're inept offensively. Yay. Right. Their defense can still be problematic. and their defense is problematic. And I think their strength perfectly aligns to one of our weaknesses. Now, I'm not as low on our offensive line when it's healthy as most people, but we're not healthy, right?
No.
We might be
please.
Literally about to say that we might be starting a rookie left tackle at right tackle in Patrick Paul, which I am all for because I think it's Kendall Lamb is out there right now.
I was ahead of that. I was ahead of you guys on that one. I said Paul 2 weeks ago.
Yep. Now I tend to not be an advocate of specifically rookies, right? I forgot who said it. A real Hall of Fame offensive lineman who does Thursday Night Football on Prime with Fitzpatrick and them. What's his name? Andrew Whitworth.
Andrew Whitworth. Yeah.
He said it's like wiping your butt with your opposite hand.
Yeah.
Right. When you're a left tackle playing right or a right tackle playing left.
Yeah, that's the point you're getting to is you don't like switching rookies' sides.
Right. I don't. Right. Because you want them to just be fully invested into learning their position, learning their trade, learning their mechanics, and it throws it off. Right. I think that was a problem that we saw with Eichenberg. I thought Eichenberg was okay coming out of Notre Dame. I really do. He wasn't world beating. Yeah. But his problem was he played left tackle for 2 games. He played right tackle for 3 games. He played center for 4 games. He played right guard for 3 games, and then the season's over. Mm-hmm. Right. So I think one of the keys to victory is containing their pass rush. We need to win the turnover battle. I think that's key, right? I think that can be said for any game.
Every week, yeah.
Right. I think the Jets tend to have, if I looked it up, I don't know if it was a reputable source, but they have 1 costly turnover per game. It's like a stat. I don't know what it's really called, but a costly turnover per game. And for the love of God, we need to utilize our speed. This is the game to open up the floodgates, stop with the negative 2-yard screen passes and hope that Tyreek's going to break through 5 players. Just send them along and let's just send it.
Which, by the way, he hasn't done all year.
He hasn't.
I don't know why we keep thinking he's going to do that.
Not a single time. Not a single time. No. Now, Achane does it very well.
Achane, yeah.
And I think the final thing, really, the final 2 things for me, I had 5 on my list, was we need to stop Bryce Hall, which is a task, right?
Yep.
And we need to stick with our run game more, right? This game, by the end of it, I hope we see a close to 50-50 split between passing and running.
And I will say I love the extended run game that we do with the screen passes to the running backs. I love that way more than I love the screens to the receivers. Like
1,000%. I
just don't. The wide receiver screen is just too much setup time for the defense. Like no matter how fast you throw it, you could be Favre. It still takes too much time to get out to the numbers. It gives the defense all that time to read what you're doing. I don't love it. And the offensive linemen have to run out there. No, it's no. All right, so your keys to the game. All right, let's the first one I actually want to talk about a lot because we saw with was it in this game with Green Bay? Is Chris Brooks on the Packers?
Yeah, sure is.
Chris Brooks has not played at all for the Packers this year, but now he's playing Miami, who cut him earlier this year, and he gets all this play.
I was pissed, by the way.
The Jets so happen to have another one of those guys by the name of Sam Eguavoen, the linebacker. You may remember.
Oh, I didn't know he was on the Jets.
Neither did I. This is why I look at depth charts 2 seconds before you're about to talk about it.
Fair play. We're definitely prepared, everyone.
I had no idea he was there either. He's backing up the weak side linebacker. Would you be surprised if he made a play?
I was a big fan of his.
I was too.
At all.
Yeah,
not at all.
I was too.
I wanted to keep him over Duke Riley.
It's thankfully Duke has been playing well on special teams and hasn't touched defense. Listen, their defense in general, on paper, is one of the scariest things you'll ever read.
Read it. Do you have it in front of you?
I have it in front of me.
Quickly. It's last
insane.
Names. Yeah.
Will McDonald, Javon Kinlaw, Quinnen Williams, Hassan Reddick, Jamian Sherwood, C.J. Mosley, Quincy Williams, Sauce Gardner, Chuck Clark, Jalen Williams, DJ Reed, Michael Carter. What?
Sounds like a Pro Bowl team.
How is this team let up more than a touchdown a game? It's incredible. So obviously they have a lot of talent that's not playing up to par. They lost their coach for this reason more than likely. And in doing so, their defensive coordinator became their new interim coach. And now the defense is playing even worse because their defensive coordinator. Right. Yeah. So I completely agree with you though. This is the time to take shots. Sauce Gardner is beatable deep, man. If he's shown any weakness, it's that you can get behind him by doing a little stutter because he bites on those hard.
He does. He hasn't learned that quite yet, and when he does, he's going to be terrifying.
Yes, but we have a receiver who can stutter with the best of them. Yeah, get him out there.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so I think like our offense versus their defense is on paper very scary, but in reality, if we just go back to playing like we did before this Packers game, I don't feel like it's really close. You know, I think they're going to take advantage of their aggression because what the Dolphins have done really well is not only getting rid of the ball quickly, but Tua has done phenomenal work at just throwing guys open. When they slow down the play and show when Tua threw the ball compared to where the receiver was when he threw it, I just feel like I'm not even in the same universe as him. Because he's throwing the ball 3 or 4 yards before the receiver's even near it, right? Like, it's insane. And I think that's where you take advantage of their aggression, especially with his eyes, because Tua is really good at looking at all his things. He can move safeties. He can move corners. He can move linebackers. The linebackers I named are scary in theory, but they are on the slower side, especially CJ Mosley. I'd be targeting him like crazy.
Constantly. In the run game,
yeah.
I think Jonnu's going to have a
monster.
I think like his best game of the season, I think.
This is what I'd like to see more of our team, though, is you have that underneath guy now. You have that Jonnu guy. And I want to see underneath. Boom. Right?
Yep.
That it's football 101. And I hate to keep going back to the coaching staff, but they overthink it, man.
Yeah. I forgot who. Maybe it was Steve. I can't remember. He said, or one of us, I can't remember. At some point early on in the season, we said you just got to sometimes just let your players play. Put them in a basic formation and say, beat your person.
Right. And with such a talented roster, I don't understand why teams don't do it more often. I think the more talented your roster is, the more simple the offense should be. Like maybe not from a verbiage perspective, right?
Right.
But just from a X's and O's, you all are really good players. You all are really smart players. You know what to do here. Let's go do it. Right.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I feel like us fans, we forget these guys have been playing football since they were like this big.
Before they were hold the ball. Yeah.
Little elves on a shelf. Right.
Yeah.
And so, yes, there are intricacies. And yes, there are nuances. Yes, there are game plans. Yes, there are play structures and blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, fine. We could have a whole series of shows on that.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, to your point, go back to backyard football-esque and just set up the long play. That is all we used to do as kids. I've been playing football my whole life. Now I'm older and can't get out of bed without making some grunts. But when I was younger, I played a lot of soccer and I played a lot of football. And in every other sport that I've ever played, including those two, you set up the long ball.
Yeah.
Right. You do everything you do, running the ball, intermediate passes, shallow passes, screens, is to get the defense to clamp downwards so you can hit the long ball. And what I feel like our coaching staff lacks consistency with is recognizing that. Well, we're just going to keep doing it. Okay, well, now they're stopping it. How about you throw it deep because our players are wide open?
Right. Like the screen's meant to one of two things: counter the blitz, keep the defense honest, right? But at a certain point, it goes from keeping the defense honest to giving them an easy stop every time because they're not threatened by the deep ball.
Exactly. That's the perfect way to say that.
Like, get it together, coach.
And we have a quarterback that can hit. I mean, for all of the fans out there, and it disgusts me when I see this, Tua doesn't have an arm. Okay, he's not Josh Allen, but the dude can throw a deep ball very, very well. Very well, right?
Yeah. And to your point about the intricacies, like the intricacies could be as small as just knowing when to run in front of a guy. And we have guys who can do that, right? It drives me crazy when I watch these receivers get the interception goes to the quarterback. But how many times have you watched it where that interception's on the receiver? Because he ran a slant behind the defender like an idiot, right? When very clearly you should be in front of that defender.
Yep.
And that's what we're talking about, the intricacies. And our receivers are not making that mistake. It's not happening.
Nope.
The only time they're doing that is on purpose because they know their speed is faster than the linebacker's reaction, right?
Well, 100%. Yeah, and Tua is so pinpoint accurate with his balls that they can afford to do that.
Yeah,
right.
His throws to Waddle, especially, like him and Waddle are just on the same brain length. It's unreal. Yeah. All right, Breece Hall is a beast. He's not playing like a beast lately.
Enough said.
But our run defense has been known to get gashed a time or two. So I think we did such a good job of stopping Josh Jacobs. Now I know Josh Jacobs scored a touchdown, but
come on.
The game plan was perfect. The reality is that their game plan was to counter our game plan, and theirs worked perfect too. Mm-hmm. But we stopped Josh Jacobs. For all intents and purposes, he had his worst game of the season.
He did. We stopped him much more than he beat us.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it just didn't matter when the coach didn't have the secondary, like the thing we were talking about before. We're like, okay, we're going to do this to counter them. What are they going to do to counter that? Like, they didn't think that far ahead.
They stopped.
Yeah, right.
They went to the beach. Yeah.
All right. 1:40, man. I feel like we haven't talked enough about this Jets game, but I also feel like there's not that much to talk. You did a great job covering kind of, I think, the 5 keys to this game. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be a factor. Of course, we haven't mentioned him enough, I don't believe.
See, I disagree with you. I know you earlier on in the show you said he's a Dolphin killer, and he might have been in Green Bay.
Yeah.
I forgot what I saw it the other day. I don't know what Tua's record is against the Jets since he's been a quarterback. But
very good.
It's very good. Right? and I just don't think Aaron Rodgers has it. I think too many ayahuasca trips in the offseason has really, and his seemingly I don't give a crap attitude. Just I don't know. I'm not a fan.
And truthfully, the game I keep thinking about, we had a different defensive coordinator, right? We had a blitz. So Aaron does very well against the blitz.
Very well.
Right.
When you've been in the league for 28 years.
Yeah. Now, Josh Boyer's not our defensive coordinator anymore. I expect Anthony Weaver to know this and not come with the blitz-heavy package. So let's get into final scores. We did not collect final scores from the boys, so it'll just be you and I tonight.
Oh, that's right. Shoot, I totally forgot to ask them. Yep.
All good. What do you see this working out to?
I mean, my score is a lot closer than I think the game will be, right? I think I have us winning 24-17, right? Could I see them only scoring 10 points? Sure. Right. But I think that with some of the injuries that we are dealing with, I think it is going to open up a lot of possibilities for them in the pass game and the run game. Right. Do I think we win this? Yes. Do I think the score is close? Yes. But I also think that if you watch the game, it'll be.
It's not as close as the score.
No. Yeah. I was a really long way because I couldn't think of that. How to say that probably. Yeah. I was trying to, filibuster and I was failing miserably. So thank you. Yeah. I think this game will be not close at all, but the score will say, oh, it's a pretty close game.
I'm going to make up for being correct about the Dolphins losing last week and predicting them to lose last week. And I'm going to go with
subtle flex, by the way.
I'm going to go with it wasn't a hard flex to take. No. There was only 2 people on NFL Network that chose us to win that game. And they were both fantasy analysts. So I'm going to go with a blowout here. I think that we need a blowout here. I think
hell yeah,
that we are going to win this 38-13.
Whoa.
Can
you please tell me why? I know we're getting at the 145 mark.
Yeah.
We tend to give me something. That's great.
I think it's 38-13 for a multitude of reasons. The number one reason on my mind is that they're angry. They did not prove the doubters wrong in Green Bay. They went in and they crumbled. They got their pants beat off by a better team. And now they're home against a Jets team that everybody hates, and they are mad. And I just think that McDaniels is going to want to pop the cork on this bad boy. I think that Tua is going to want to do that. I think that they are going to come out swinging. I would not be surprised if we see one of those signature one-play 75-yard touchdowns on the opening drive.
That would be beautiful.
Because I just
we don't have Trent Sherfield anymore, so I'm not sure if that's a thing.
Something in my soul says it, dude. Something in my soul says that they are going to take deep shots early because they have something to prove.
Yeah, I'm not bold enough to make those kind of decisions on division games because they always, no matter how bad we were and how good the Patriots were, for example, we always played them close. And the same with the Jets.
I agree, but I think that drives them even more. I think it drives them even more. I think that they're just think about you. You were a professional athlete. Think about a tough loss. All you want to do after a tough loss is get back on that field.
Yeah, true. That's a fair point.
I just think that they want to get back on that field and they want to whoop somebody's butt. And if it's a division rival in the New York Jets,
even better. At home.
At home,
it's a 1:00 game, right?
At 1:00. Yeah.
And nobody's talking about the advantage that the construction crew, when they built the stadium, we have a baked, quite literally, no pun intended, a baked in advantage with how the sun and the shade.
Fans know. Great, it comes up if you go to like different channels and look at YouTube comments or channels that are talking about,
it's so unfair.
Right. Anytime a home field advantage comes up on a channel, the comments is just riddled with the Dolphin Stadium is unfair.
Yeah, right. But it's cool if we go play Buffalo in 40 inches of snow.
I saw it most recently because on the Rich Eisen show, Chris, one of the co-hosts, said that he believes all stadiums should be domes because he wants to see good teams be good outside of the weather. And the comment section was just chef's kiss, my friend.
I love it.
It was great.
All right, so real quick, what was your score again? I didn't write it down. I'm sorry.
38-13.
38-13.
And Josh has us winning 24-17 and a closer score than it is a game.
Thank you.
All right, my friend. I hope this is true. I know you and I, and I believe we haven't talked to Keith and Steve about this yet, but Steve's probably going to have a newborn, so I doubt that's going to happen. But we're talking about trying to get, towards the end of the season here, get those reaction shows on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know that you and I have talked about it and are kind of set on it. We'll see if Keith can join us on Sunday too. We want to try at least for this. Yeah.
Yep.
We want to try at least for this last half of the season to see how that works. See, I just feel like by Wednesday, like especially on a Thursday game, I've completely forgotten what most of this, it's not fresh anymore.
Exactly. And they won't be as long for those that are.
No, I would hope 30 minutes. Yeah.
Maybe. Right. And we did one earlier in the season and it was very well received. And I think
against the Seahawks. Yep.
Yep. And I think, it's important to let's try to follow the media masses and do reaction shows, because I think that's kind of what the fans are they want, right?
Yeah, we're trying to give you guys what you want. We look at the statistics and we look at what does well, what doesn't do well, the comments, right? Like, so if there's anything else you would like to see, please let us know. But for this episode of the Phins Forecast, it is time for us to sign off, my friend.
We got somebody new.
Somebody new coming in at the last second.
All right. Bold take.
Coming in with a bold take at the end of the show. 72.
Well, I respect it.
Yeah, thanks so much for jumping in, dude. All Choker Award. I love it. That's a great way to end the show. Hopefully we'll see you next time, 72 Undefeated. We're here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook as well. We will see you guys hopefully on Sunday with a Dolphins win.
A blowout win.
A blowout win. See you all then. Guy coming in hot. Oh, I didn't end the stream. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still live. I just played the outro without playing. This is a rookie mistake. I'm so sorry. You're going to see the outro again, so I hope you like the song because it's about to play again.